hope. Hope for the community. Hope for Ghana, our beloved country. Hope for Africa, and hope for the world. With 4 years of training through sitting for lectures and getting the grades, you will develop competence and big hearts to save lives. Our BSc Nursing program is uniquely designed with conviction, character, compassion, creativity, and community, with a keen focus on information technology and entrepreneurship to equip you bring hope to clients. We are Heritage Christian College. Our nursing program is accredited by Ghana Tertiary Education Commission and Nursing and Midwifery Council of Ghana. We are recruiting now. Heritage Christian College, a university educating compassionate entrepreneurial leaders.
I love to read, I love to sing, and I love languages. So I teach Greek and Hebrew, and I hope soon to learn the Tree language, which I did not even pronounce correctly on Sunday. So I'm already learning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what 3 words have you picked up so far?
So I know Kakraba very well.
Kakraba.
And I am learning words like shito, which I should not eat.
Oh, really?
My lips are still burning.
Yeah. Interesting. Also, as a lady who has accomplished so much in terms of education, and in our part of the world,
Yeah.
I mean, well, I have not seen any lady with a PhD in Old Testament.
Even in the U.S., especially amongst our fellowship, there are not as many women who have advanced degrees in Bible.
Wow, wow. So
I'm a stranger there too.
you are a Yeah. What has been your motivation to pursue such high studies in Old Testament, especially?
Sure. Thank you. So even as you read from my curriculum vitae, my resume just now, in college, my primary focus, my primary emphasis was on missions. I really believed that God had called me to work in the mission field. My heart has always been for God's people overseas, and specifically in Bible translation. That's my mother said many years ago, I love languages because I like to talk so much.
Yeah. Interesting. But apart from Greek and Hebrew, which other languages have you studied?
Right. So English, you always count your first language, right?
Yeah.
You've studied it.
Yeah.
English, Spanish, Greek, Hebrew, Syriac, Aramaic, Latin, German.
Woo! I see. So do you have a working knowledge in them?
Twee. So tree. Soon tree. Very soon. Very soon. Wow, yeah, that's a good one. So my working knowledge is in English, Spanish, Greek, and Hebrew. The others I read fairly well. My Syriac is falling away because I do not use it. But
yeah. Interesting. And why Heritage Christian College?
Sure. So when I was at Abilene Christian University in Texas, I worked with them to begin online programs, again, out of my mission heart, right? So God's called me to teach. God's given me many gifts and information to share with others. And so my heart always said, why not share the things that we have, not just with students in America who can take online classes, but also with God's people around the world, right? As long as you have an internet connection, you can study, right? There's so many resources available. And so I worked with the people who were there, and someone gave a very generous gift to allow students from Heritage specifically to enroll in our Masters of Christian Ministry program. And if you heard me shouting yesterday, I saw Reverend Alex Yasin, who was one of our very first students. I was so excited to see him. So in 2014, I was here first and began that program. So ACU and HCC have had long relationship, have had good connections, and so it was really helpful to be told by my colleagues at Abilene about the wonderful work that was going on here and the good students, and I have found it myself to be true.
Yeah, awesome, great. And so you'll be here with us for how long?
So I have signed a 3-year contract.
Wow.
God willing, I would like to be here a very long time. We'll see what God does, but
Wow.
my commitment is to the school.
Great. I'm excited to hear that. I thought you were leaving just at the end of the year. Oh, that's nice to hear. And
Provost says, take it one semester at a time.
of course.
But my contract is for 3 years.
Awesome. Good to know. I was going through your publications and presentations. Some of them caught my attention. I would like us to discuss 4 of them.
Sure.
Are you ready?
Of course. I remember writing most of them.
Okay, so you will just share some key insights. The first one that caught my attention was this was at a Christian Scholars Conference, and it's titled, What We've Learned, Recovering Hope for Christian Universities. What insights stood out from that presentation, and what can you share with Heritage as a Christian university?
Sure, yeah. So that presentation was part of a larger panel of people who were presenting about, including some fine people from HCC who were part of that conversation. So we were presenting on the need for distance learning, and especially partnerships around the world and in Africa. And so,
Mindi, take it cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, slowly. Yeah.
I apologize. When I am nervous,
Yeah.
I speak very quickly.
No, you're not nervous.
So the first part of that paper just reviewed some of my history and how God led me to become involved in distance learning, and then to, come to the present and say, what have I learned? What mistakes have I made? What have I learned from them? What could we then take from those learnings and move forward to do better?
Yeah.
And really thinking about the very wide availability of information. So that was one of the encouragements, was for people who are looking to online learning to look beyond the textbook. To see the vast resources, right?
Yeah.
People today, if they want to know something, they don't usually buy a book, right? I love books. But usually, right, you'll go to the web, you'll go to others, you'll do the sort of crowdsourcing to find information. And so I encourage people, especially faculty, to make use of things that are available on the web and Creative Commons license for materials, rather than requiring, right, that helps to make things more affordable for all students, to make things accessible. I also encouraged the understandings of the ways that you can build community even in an online environment. And that's one of the things that has really impressed me and impacted me in my years of working in online learning, is the ways that God's Spirit, right? You remember the Apostle Paul says, though I am absent from you in body, yet I am present with you in the Spirit. Now, when he is speaking in a matter of church discipline. But I think that also applies in positive ways, that God's Spirit is everywhere at all times, present among God's people, and building and connecting that community, even through the medium of the World Wide Web.
Great one. And following from that, there was another on the student becomes the master, designing classroom culture for optimal inclusion.
Sure.
What's that about? That's
Yeah.
exciting to know.
So that particular subject is one that I present on regularly. Actually, end of this month, I'm giving a presentation to a college in the States on that. So thinking about, you're familiar with traditional education. Maybe you've been in a kind of class where the lecturer stands up.
Yes.
And the students, they listen very closely and they say nothing, right?
Yeah.
The lecturer is all-knowing. The
That's
lecturer
very common
has,
in our culture.
right?
Yeah.
Right? So maybe you've heard the phrase, the sage on the stage. Now,
Yeah.
of course, I'm on a stage today.
Sure.
So, right? And that's very common. And it is one way to deliver information to people, right? But it's not perhaps as effective as it could be. And it gives the sense that the lecturer is far removed and is unapproachable, right?
Okay.
And so I'm encouraging in this work, for this particular publication, but for most of my workshops, I encourage faculty to turn that upside down.
You are
So-
encouraging faculty to turn that upside down.
Yep.
So that
So that the student is the focus, right? If the sage on the stage model,
okay,
the lecturer is the one who is
knowledgeable and
first, is
giving the
top,
information.
is the
Yes.
authority.
Yeah.
And to remember that everyone comes with something to share, right?
Sure.
Everyone comes with insights.
Yeah.
Everyone comes with their own life experience to contribute in a way that builds up the whole.
Okay.
And if all you ever hear, the only person you ever hear from is the lecturer, you'll learn many things. Lecturers like to lecture. But if you never make time to hear what the students are saying, you miss out on their insights. And the class as a whole misses out on their insights, right? If you write the paper for the prof, and the prof is the only one who reads it, they're the only one who gets the insight. And especially then, the online learning environment is very well suited for that kind of approach to teaching and learning. The nursing students who were in my class on Tuesday, the last hour of the class, I was asking them to share. And certain students were louder than others. So sometimes it was hard for people to hear them. Certain students were listening more attentively than others. And so it was also a little distracting. And so sometimes in a face-to-face classroom, that model of giving students the opportunity to speak, it's more difficult. It's harder to manage, especially in a big class with a lot of people. We run out of time. But in an online environment, everyone has an equal voice, right? Everyone's posts are equally valid. Everyone is able to read what everyone else is saying and to share together. And that gives much greater opportunity for the group as a whole to contribute to the learning. Still, the faculty, the lecturer, they have much to share, and hopefully you listen to them more attentively or first, but then it allows the students as well to have some, right, to be a bit of a master in helping to share the material.
Oh, great one there. And still on technology, and this one, he says, not a toy and not a tyrant, a biblical theology of technology. What has the Bible got to do with this?
A catchy title is half of the challenge, right? You must come up with a good title. So.
Okay.
That's
so you
a
mean
joke.
half of the
That if you're doing a presentation, you need a
catchy title. Okay, that's why.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So that presentation comes from a class that I've taught for many years, thinking about a biblical theology of technology, right? So some people they think about technology and they think, oh, it's a toy, right? It's the games I play on my phone, it's the chatting with my friends, it's, you know, it's silly cat videos on YouTube. Do you have that here? So silly videos. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say silly. It's I don't know.
Funny?
Worth funny, thank you. Funny videos. Right, so it's a toy, it's something fun, it's a diversion, maybe a distraction. And the other extreme, people say, oh, technology is a tyrant. It's, you know,
It controls us.
Controls us. Google is watching my every search.
Yeah.
It forces me to do, right, I must fill out all of these forms and, you know, and so they see it as a burden. And so I encourage in that, both in that class, but then in the presentation and the paper you referenced, encourage people to think about the ways that God has created the tools that we have in the right. So not a toy, not a tyrant. Instead, technology is a tool. It is something,
a tool.
Right? So that's the other T.
Yeah.
Something that we can use for the benefit of the work that God's called us to do, the people that God has called us to serve. And so then we look through all that. This was one of the things that has encouraged me so much in the General Assemblies that I have attended. The theme that, you know, we're talking about is thank you.
And you love that.
It's creativity, and that's exactly what that paper is about. In thinking about the ways that God has given humanity creative talents to be able to use resources to develop tools like technology to make good use of them.
Great one. And then the final paper is about what's faith got to do with it? And it was presented at the Association of Christian Continuing Education Schools and Seminaries. What's faith got to do with it? And especially at Heritage. What advice do you have for us, learning from your experiences as a university? What has faith got to do with it?
Absolutely. I think that was one of the first presentations I gave in that group. Later, I became their president. I have really good friends in that group. And so that's a community of people who are involved in distance learning, but they're very specifically Christians, right? So there are many organizations, especially in the U.S., focused on online learning, and they're good to work with. They have good ideas and good resources, but this group very particularly is thinking about distance learning from perspective of faith. And so, so that presentation really discussed a lot of people think that the reason why you would go into virtual learning, the reason why you would offer programs online is primarily motivated by money, right? That's a way to get rich. That's a way to bring in many more students, and it's a way to increase, you know, the
bottom line,
you know,
revenue.
Increase revenue, increase the reach of the school. And that's, you know, that's not a bad thing by itself. That's not a bad thing. But I encouraged in that particular paper, encouraged the schools and my colleagues to think first and foremost about their faith claims and their faith perspectives. That, again, that sense of mission that says, the tools that God has given us, including technology to do online, is something that can fulfill the school's mission, right? Can fulfill the reach, right? Expand that reach. And so went through several principles for administrators to think about when doing accreditation, not just as jumping through the hoops to get the stamp from the, you know, but instead as a way to, right, do your best to present yourself to God as, right? So you do these things not for human beings, but for the Lord.
For the Lord, Great, great. My final two questions, and I'll open the floor. What can you say to especially young ladies who have a lot to overcome, obstacles, especially in our part of the world, but they have a lot of dreams and ambitions? What can you tell them to motivate them?
Yeah. So I shared a bit of this in the university church on Sunday. Perhaps some heard that. And I was so pleased yesterday when President shared the story, right? The parable of the talents. That is one of my favorite of the parables that Jesus taught. And it scares me. It scares me to death. Because I fear when I stand before the Lord and I'm called to account for how I used the gifts that God gave me. If I say to him, like that lazy servant, if I say, oh, they would not let me, I am afraid that that will not be acceptable. And so my motivation is always to do the best that I can, using the gifts that God has given me, not to be offensive, right? Not to step in where it would do harm or where it would cause division. That's not my calling. My calling is to be gracious. It's not my job to change other people's minds, right? God is the one who changes hearts. But instead, my calling is to go where there is an open door. And to do whatever I can. And I always encourage, when I speak with lots of people, but especially with students, with young ladies, encourage them to do the same. To think about the talents, the gifts that God has given you, what you've been entrusted by God, and how can you use it in such a way that it produces results. Cannot say it any better than President did yesterday.
Thank you. And final question from me is, what would you like to be your legacy when you leave Ghana finally?
Oh, wow. Thompson Memorial Building? No.
Not that.
That's not it. No. I keep praying, God, use me, right? And so I would love for, as long as the Lord keeps me here, as long as God gives me strength, I want to be an encouragement to students. I want to share the knowledge that God has given me. I want to teach as many people Greek and Hebrew as possible.
Wow.
But I also want to really represent well the character of the school, right? To represent those convictions, to be a reflection of the excellent work that God has already done here. I was here first in 2014.
Wow.
And it was a very different campus.
And
I came here, I arrived last Thursday, and we drove into campus, and
oh, really?
We're not at the same place. God has done so much here, and I just want to be a small part of that. I just want to keep moving that forward. God's already working here.
Good. All right. So let's now open the floor. If you have any questions, I'm taking 3 questions.
Thank you so much. I have 2 questions. All right. What motivated you to climb up to this level? And my second question is, do you have regrets? Were you being discouraged by friends, family? And okay, that is my question.
That's an excellent question. Very often I stop and question my own motivations, right? Why am I doing this? What is it that I'm seeking? Especially if it is promotion or I move up, is this for my own selfish gain or for my own, whatever? Or is it because God has given me gifts and I must use them? And sometimes there's a bit of both, right? I don't think human beings always have pure motivations, but I always try to think about, why am I doing this? Hoping to do this for God's glory, to use my gifts well. Sometimes you look back on your life and you think, wow, how did that happen? And you see God's hand, right? You see God's providence. I have many regrets. I think all people have regrets. And just in terms of learning, right? Growing in your faith and maturing in your decision making. I'm certainly not there yet, right? Right? Not that I have achieved these things, isn't that what Paul says? But this I do, right? Forgetting what is behind, I press on.
Great.
If no student is asking, then I'll ask my question. We're talking about community. We are talking about technology, online, with its all manifestations, laying off the human factor in community. How do we reconcile those in theology?
Oh, yeah, excellent question. That is a concern many people have, right? So how do you have that human connection, that way to, and certainly I would never advocate for only ever online, unless that's the only option, right? If the other option is nothing, then okay, we do online. But always for me, I want what we're doing online to then be enhanced and supplemented with time together in fellowship, right? That's why we come to, we brought lecturers to Ghana to have those classes, and we built, so I got to know my brother Alex. Got to know him in our classes, in our online classes, and he shared concerns, and my brother, I'll pray for you, and I shared concerns as well, and I know he prayed for me, and so God begins to build that community. But then when you are together in classes, face to face, right, then you can hug, and you can, hold their hand, and you can enjoy food together, and that's just, that's then the icing on the cake. That's the thing that ties it together. So for me, I would like both. If we must only do online, that's a start. But it's always towards the goal of community.
Great. Final question.
Thank you very much. You made reference to the parable of the talents. And one of the reasons this lazy servant gave was that his boss was a shrewd person and that he was afraid. So I want to ask, have you had fears, and how did you overcome those fears?
I have fears. I have overcome some fears. I am still overcoming many fears, right? At the beginning of my work and my teaching ministry, when there was perhaps more opposition to what I was doing, my fears were about losing my position, or about bringing shame upon the school because how could they hire a woman? My first employer received several letters to that effect. And as I grew and gained confidence in my work, and as my employers and my colleagues provided good encouragement to say that they believed in me as well, then my fears became more about being ineffective, or squandering the gifts that I had or not using them well. Today, my fears are about all of the many new people I have met and not remembering their names, and just learning new systems, right? So I don't know all of the requirements. I don't know all of the ways to best help. And so those are my fears today. You could pray for me.
Yeah, that's it. His name is Hope, so.
Thank you.
He's giving you some hope.
Perfect.
All right, so I guess that's all for now. Thank you very much.
May I please share one thing, just to tell the larger group? So I have rheumatoid arthritis. I have an illness that affects my joints. And I love to greet you, right? I love to shake your hand, but the snap, that really hurts. I'm very sorry, okay? So when I greet you, I shake your hand and I come away and I'm not snapping. That's okay. I don't mean to be rude or that I don't understand the process, but it's painful. So thank you.
We understand.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Dr. Mindi Thompson, for granting us this overview of her life and her mission and all that God has given her to come and do on earth. Thank you very much. Let's pray, and then I will take some announcements. Let's be on our feet. Emmanuel Adumako, please pray for us.
Do you have an interest and passion for the media? You see yourself excelling in the field of journalism and multimedia, but do not have enough time and funds to pursue courses in those fields. That is why the Heritage Christian College Media Training School was set up to give you an opportunity to train yourself for 4 months and get a 2-month opportunity for attachment at Truth TV. With our state-of-the-art studio and newsroom, experienced friendly lecturers in the field of journalism and conducive lecture halls, we offer students the chance to learn on the job with both practical and theoretical lessons. We offer courses in journalism such as newscasting, show hosting, voice training and phonetics, voiceovers, report filing, and many others. In the field of multimedia, we offer courses in cinematography, video editing, animations, studio management, master control room management, light and sound engineering, set design, graphic design, photography, and social media management. We offer intensive 1-week courses in communication essentials for professionals. We have both weekday and weekend courses. We are located behind Amasaman Stadium in Accra. Heritage Christian College Media Training School gives you all the tips you need to succeed in the world of communication.